Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most important and foundational aspects of the Indian Constitution, the fundamental rights. These rights are the bedrock of our democracy, and they play a key role in shaping the relationship between the government and its citizens. They protect us from arbitrary actions and ensure our freedoms are respected. But with these rights come challenges. How can we strike a balance between protecting individual liberties and maintaining social order? What are the key challenges India faces when it comes to enforcing these rights, and how can they be addressed? We'll break this down into three main parts. 1. Understanding fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution. 2. Challenges in protecting these rights. 3. Possible solutions for strengthening and safeguarding fundamental rights. Let's get started. Part 1. Understanding fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution. So, what exactly are fundamental rights in India? Well, think of them as the basic human freedoms that every Indian citizen is entitled to. These rights are enshrined in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, and they're designed to protect citizens from arbitrary actions of the state. In fact, the fundamental rights have been inspired by various international documents, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other constitutions like that of the United States. India's fundamental rights can be broadly classified into 6 categories. 1. Right to equality, Articles 14 to 18. 2. Right to freedom, Articles 19 to 22. 3. Right against exploitation, Articles 23 to 24. 4. Right to freedom of religion, Articles 25 to 28. 5. Cultural and educational rights, Articles 29 to 30. 6. Right to constitutional remedies, Article 32. Let's take a closer look at each one of these rights and what they mean in practical terms. 1. Right to equality, Articles 14 to 18. The right to equality ensures that everyone is treated equally before the law. It prohibits discrimination based on religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. It also abolishes untouchability and titles like Sir or Dame, which were historically used to distinguish between classes of people. But here's the catch: while this right promises equality, it also permits the government to take affirmative action to uplift historically marginalized groups through measures like reservations in education and jobs. So, equality here doesn't necessarily mean treating everyone the same, it means ensuring fairness by leveling the playing field. 2. Right to freedom, Articles 19 to 22. The right to freedom is probably the most widely discussed and crucial category. Under Article 19, you have the right to freedom of speech and expression, the right to assemble peacefully, the right to form associations, and the freedom to move freely throughout India. However, none of these freedoms are absolute. For example, your freedom of speech can be restricted in the interest of national security, public order, or decency and morality. In other words, there are reasonable restrictions placed on these freedoms to prevent harm to society. 3. Right against exploitation, Articles 23 to 24. The right against exploitation prohibits all forms of human trafficking, forced labor, and child labor. India has struggled with issues like bonded labor and child exploitation, and these rights provide a constitutional guarantee that such practices are illegal. However, despite these constitutional safeguards, we still see cases of child labor and trafficking in various parts of India. So, while the rights exist on paper, enforcement remains a significant challenge, and we'll get to that in a bit. 4. Right to freedom of religion, Articles 25 to 28. India is a secular state, and the right to freedom of religion ensures that all individuals have the freedom to practice, propagate, and profess the religion of their choice. However, this right also comes with restrictions. For example, the state can regulate religious practices if they affect public order, morality, or health. This right becomes particularly important in a country as diverse as India, where multiple religions coexist. But it's also one of the more controversial rights, especially when it comes to the role of religion in politics or issues like religious conversions. 5. Cultural and educational rights, Articles 29 to 30. India's constitution also protects the rights of minority communities to conserve their language, script, or culture, and to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. This right is aimed at preserving the rich cultural diversity of India. For example, Article 30 gives religious and linguistic minorities the right to establish their own schools and colleges to promote their culture. However, there have been debates over how much autonomy such institutions should have when it comes to adhering to national educational standards. 6. Right to constitutional remedies, Article 32. And finally, we have what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar called the heart and soul of the Indian Constitution, the right to constitutional remedies. Article 32 allows any citizen to approach the Supreme Court directly if their fundamental rights are violated. This right is a powerful tool in the hands of the judiciary, ensuring that citizens have a recourse if their rights are infringed upon by the state. Part 2. Challenges in protecting fundamental rights. Now that we understand the framework of fundamental rights in India, let's talk about the challenges that arise when it comes to enforcing and protecting these rights. 1. Lack of awareness. The first major challenge is the lack of awareness. Many citizens, especially in rural areas, are unaware of their fundamental rights. Without this knowledge, it becomes difficult for people to demand justice when their rights are violated. This lack of awareness often leads to exploitation, especially among marginalized groups such as Dalits, tribals, and women. 2. Balancing freedom and national security. Another significant challenge is finding the right balance between freedom and national security. For example, the freedom of speech granted under Article 19 is often restricted in the name of protecting national security or public order. Laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA, and sedition laws have been criticized for being used to suppress dissent or curtail the rights of activists and journalists. While it's essential to protect national security, it is equally important to ensure that these laws aren't used to stifle legitimate expression. 3. Judicial backlog and delays. Another big challenge is the backlog of cases in the judiciary. Although Article 32 provides a direct route to the Supreme Court for rights violations, the slow pace of judicial processes can make it difficult for citizens to get timely justice. This delay often discourages individuals from even attempting to file cases, effectively denying them their constitutional rights. 4. Inequality and socioeconomic barriers. Despite the right to equality, India continues to struggle with issues of caste-based discrimination, gender inequality, and economic disparity. For instance, while the Constitution abolishes untouchability, the social practice still persists in many parts of rural India. Similarly, women's rights, especially when it comes to issues like reproductive rights and equal pay, remain a significant area of concern. 5. Misuse of fundamental rights. There are also instances where fundamental rights are misused. For example, the right to freedom of speech is sometimes exploited to spread hate speech or incite violence. This makes it crucial to ensure that rights are exercised responsibly, without infringing on the rights and freedoms of others. 6. Tension between rights and duties. While fundamental rights are guaranteed by the Constitution, there is also the concept of fundamental duties in Part 4A. However, there's often tension between rights and duties. Citizens are quick to demand their rights, but are sometimes reluctant to fulfill their duties. This imbalance creates challenges in governance and social order. Part 3. Solutions for strengthening and safeguarding fundamental rights. Now that we've explored the challenges, let's discuss some possible solutions for better protecting and enforcing these fundamental rights in India. 1. Legal reforms and better enforcement. The first step towards safeguarding fundamental rights is legal reform. Laws that are outdated or overly broad, like sedition laws, should be reformed or repealed to prevent misuse. Additionally, new laws should be introduced to address emerging challenges, such as privacy in the digital age or rights related to gender identity. At the same time, existing laws need to be better enforced. For example, stricter action against practices like child labor and human trafficking will go a long way in ensuring that the right against exploitation is upheld. 2. Judicial reforms to reduce backlog. To address the issue of judicial delays, judicial reforms are crucial. We need more judges, faster trials, and efficient case management systems. The use of technology in the judiciary, like online case filing and virtual courts, can also help speed up the process and ensure timely justice. 3. Public awareness and education. A key solution to many of the challenges we've discussed is increasing public awareness. Governments, NGOs, and civil society organizations need to take active steps to educate citizens, especially those in rural and marginalized communities, about their fundamental rights. More awareness means more people can hold the government accountable and seek justice when their rights are violated. India has robust institutions like the National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, and various other watchdog bodies. However, these institutions need to be empowered with more resources and authority to investigate and address violations of fundamental rights. 5. Balancing rights with duties. It's important to remember that with rights come responsibilities. Citizens should be made aware of their fundamental duties, which include respecting the rights of others, promoting harmony, and protecting public property. This can create a more balanced and responsible exercise of rights, ensuring that one person's freedom doesn't come at the cost of another's. 6. Ensuring inclusivity and addressing inequality. Lastly, addressing socioeconomic inequalities is crucial for safeguarding fundamental rights. Measures like affirmative action, targeted welfare programs, and educational initiatives for marginalized groups can help bridge the gap between the privileged and the underprivileged, ensuring that everyone has an equal opportunity to exercise their rights. Conclusion: why fundamental rights matter. So there you have it, a comprehensive look at fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution, the challenges we face in protecting these rights, and the solutions we can implement to strengthen them. At the end of the day, our fundamental rights are more than just words on paper. They are the pillars of our democracy, and protecting them is essential for a just and equitable society. But it's not just the government's responsibility. Every citizen plays a role in upholding these rights and ensuring they are respected. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content on constitutional law and governance. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think are the biggest challenges India faces in protecting fundamental rights? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.